Good evening, and welcome to the January 9th, 2017 Cross Lake Council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You all have an agenda in front of you, so we'll start at the top and go down. If there are no other additions to the agenda, is there a motion on the floor to approve the January 9th, 2017 council agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
First by Gary Heacock, second by Dave. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. It is customary at the start of the new year to have an organizational meeting appointments. Some of these appointments are traditional in nature, and some appointments are appointed by the new mayor. Beginning with number 1, it has been customary for the longest-serving council member to be appointed to acting mayor in the absence of the mayor. Gary Heacock currently fits those requirements and has accepted the appointment of acting mayor. At this time, I'd like to entertain if there are any other motions or volunteers to be on the docket for acting mayor. If not, I'd like a motion on the floor to approve Gary Heacock as acting mayor.
So moved.
Dave Schrupp first. A second?
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, Gary.
Thank you.
The mayor and finance director treasurer are also appointed as ex officio members of the Fire Relief Association. Is there a motion on the floor to appoint Mayor Norgaard and Finance Director Treasurer Mike Linnaeus to fill this position?
I'll make a motion.
Dave makes a motion.
I'll second it.
Gary Heacock, second. Other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. The next one that we will go through and approve is our regularly scheduled council meetings are the second Monday of the month at 7 p.m. Is there motion on the floor to approve that continuing date for our Cross Lake Council meetings? Second Monday, 7
So
p.m.
moved.
Dave first.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Motion approved. The next item on our agenda is the appointment of the official newspaper. Currently, Northland Press has been the newspaper of our choice, meaning that they publish all of our public notices. And so we will need to move again on the official newspaper of the Cross Lake Council. The council members had in their packets the current rates, which I believe were the same, and excuse me. The only difference being is that Northland Press does have an office in Cross Lake and distributes their newspaper free of charge to the post office customer. Is there any discussion, or are we ready to make a motion on the floor for the official newspaper of the Cross Lake Council?
Is there any benefit to having both of them, other than cost?
Well, we get
I mean,
a little bit more coverage.
Is it worthwhile, though, with the free paper? Probably not, huh?
Council? Thoughts?
I guess if Northland Press is covering it from our legal objective, That's all we're.
There's a lot of
most
people out of
concerned
state, out of town, and can they get it on the web or anything easier? Is there any benefit? That's all I want to say.
Probably a lot more out of people that go away in the winter, actually, that get the Country Echo. Or,
That's what I'm just
than get the
wondering.
Northland. So, I mean, that's a point to be made.
It is on the website. They have a website.
For the Northland or the? both
Northland.
of them?
Northland Press.
Northland,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I just want to, whatever. I think it's about $6,000-7,000 a year, maybe, to do that. Where's Mike? Is he in here? Is that about right? Is that about what we paid Northland last year, $6,000-7,000?
That's correct. It was in that range, but, that varies based on,
Right.
planning and zoning activity. So if you've got more activity, those, it'll be reflected in what you have to publish too.
Yeah.
So,
Last year was twice as much as it was the year before.
Is there any other discussion or questions by the council? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion from the floor for the selection of our city council, or for our city newspaper, our official newspaper.
I'll make a motion, we continue with Northland Press.
Dave Schrupp on a first. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I,
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, that being said, I want you all to know that Teresa Bork from the Echo Journal is at all of our council meetings and is the representative from Echo Journal that covers Cross Lake. And the Echo Journal has been wonderful about coming to all of the activities that we have in Cross Lake and giving us a lot of publicity. So I think we're very fortunate to have newspapers in our community that serve us so well. So thank you, Kate, and thank you, Teresa. Okay, the next one is appointment of the city engineers, of the city engineer, and as you've noticed, WSN submitted an application. Is there any discussion on that before we vote on the city engineer?
I've got a point on that. We've had a lot of discussion about city engineering in the last year. WSN has got some numerous projects going for us right now, and we've discussed, just as we did recently with our bids and an overview of what was needed to be done at the, down at the septic at the treatment plant. We've got a second opinion, and it was, I think, quite frankly, a little eye-opening. I don't know why we need to, at this point, officially appoint a city engineer. We have just talked about starting to do these projects on more of a on-call type of basis or whatever. A lot of road projects are already rolling. We've already funded those. We've already, got WSN working on those. I would like to have some further conversation about item number 5, because we have been already having considerable conversation about that in the last year, about doing this more on an on-call basis and not necessarily just, always, putting all of our eggs, say, in one basket, so to speak. I think that there's some of these things that could stand, it's a lot of money involved, and it doesn't hurt to maybe have, second and different viewpoints.
I agree with that.
I would support that, too.
Any other comments? Dave?
Well, the only comment I have is if you look at a fee schedule, it's very difficult to figure out what the cost of any project's going to be, because they usually come up and they give you a bid to do the work. And you really don't know what makes up the bid, what type of people are they using. So it probably would not hurt to have a second bid. And if we wanted to, we could get that on most projects.
Well, we're
We're
just
working on now on the sewer plant.
Right,
that
exactly.
We're working on that
And I
one,
think
so.
that for all of us, I felt that, that the council found that worked out well, and we're getting some more information, and, like I said, a lot of these are, these are a lot of large dollar projects coming up in front of us, and we've already got a number of them underway, and, nothing as far as WSN, moving along, great work, but I just think in the future, it would be not a bad idea for the city to consider, as we get into further projects. I mean, I don't think we need to just specifically designate one engineering firm for the city.
Can I bring up one point, maybe? This has come up in other cities I've worked in too, same with city attorney, by the way. There's nothing wrong, as Dan said, to get bids or farm out work to different companies to kind of spread the wealth if you have multiple engineering firms in the same town. I still think it's good wisdom, though, for just routine stuff, it's nice if Ted or whoever it is, Ted would be the most common choice. If it's a 5-minute conversation, it's nice to know which engineering firm he's supposed to talk to rather than having to come back to council. Now, for big things like the wastewater plant or a huge road project, that's a bidded service. You can use whoever you want or select bids, but you don't have to pick tonight. I think you could do it next month and maybe get more information, but I think it's good policy to have somebody designated as a city engineer. I'm not telling you who, of course, that's up to the council. But that's why, for more of the boring stuff, the 10-minute phone call. Who is Ted or whoever else, maybe it's you with a commission question, Who is that when on a real basic question? It's just, I'm going to bring that point up. It doesn't mean you can't, on every bigger, like for some cities have policies, anything over $10,000, for example, it has to go to bid. We're not going to just presume it's the city engineer, or the city attorney, or the city whatever. You could have a price point like that where that's just policy, or you could just do it on a case by case,
Okay. Yeah, that's more what I was making a comment on.
And I agree with that. I think to have a city engineer or a survey that's on call is kind of like is the glue that keeps all of the smaller little projects and questions together for the city.
Well, one of the things we might consider is if there's a project that exceeds a certain dollar amount, that we would just say we want to have a second look at it, because, we do need them to attend the meetings, which they do for free. There's a lot of things that they discuss that they do for free here, and you need somebody, like Brad was saying, for those meetings. But if, in my work history, you get large projects, you never went with one bid. You always got multiple bids to make sure that the numbers were competitive, so.
And did we not get a bid from the other engineering firm? Did we only get one from Winseth?
I just got one this year. In the past couple of years, we've been getting some from Bolton and Mink, but I didn't get one this year. You remember a couple of years ago, not all of you were on the council, but we did go through a whole request for proposal process, and we sat here for, one morning, I think, and we talked to, I think it was WSB, WSN, and Bolton and Mink went through that whole RFP process. And I agree with Brad that, for our staff, if Ted's got a question, I mean, he should be able to contact someone, whoever that person is. But we, in previous experience that I've had as well, is you go out for proposals with bigger projects, and it could be WSN that ends up with a lot of them, but maybe sometimes it's not. So,
So WSN gave us a proposal here, Bolton Mink didn't. So this is the only one we're looking at.
Did we only go out for one or did we go out for none?
We did not solicit.
Okay.
And we hadn't in the past. I mean, Bolton and Mink just sent one in. They wanted to be
Oh,
considered.
just because it came up in the last months, I wonder if we shouldn't see what their proposal is. Do we have to do it tonight?
Do we need to appoint a engineering firm tonight,
Doesn't
Dan?
have to be tonight.
Okay.
You don't have to tonight, and even though it's custom to appoint at the January meeting the city attorney's engineer, all those things, 2 weeks from now, you can have a special meeting and say, we've changed our mind. Now it's Bolton Mink, or it's WSB, or whoever it's going to be. I mean, that's not, a prison sentence. I mean, you can change your mind.
Yep.
So, when in doubt, it's nice to have one. You can always change your mind. Now, if in the next month or 2 months, if it takes you that long to get proposals in, you got somebody on file. This is not an annual commitment. Like with most things you do, 2 months from now, if you get 3 votes, you can change your mind.
But it would turn into it, typically it does. So I'd make a motion, we just hold off and figure out which one we want to have.
How long would it take to,
By the next meeting, you know, I mean, I would think.
would we be able to go out and get proposals?
Yeah, I think
That
we
would be
could.
ready? Dave?
Maybe I can summarize here. I think what I tried to say before, I'll just repeat it again. When you get hourly fees, and there's 10 categories or more of people, and they put an estimate together, you don't know, you get a lump sum number. You don't know where the hours are coming from. So the only way to get competitive bids is if we have a project, you go to multiple people to get the bid and see who's coming in with the best price, and then who does the best job. I think we need to have, what Brad said, is someone that Ted can call and other people can call, and they have the history. And I do agree that if things don't work out, we could change. But I think you need to nail somebody down as we move ahead. So, and they've been here for 20 years, so there's a lot of history. The new firm is probably not going to have the history that they have, so that'll put a load on the people in the office. But I'm all for getting more than one bid, just like we're doing
Well,
on
I'm
the sewer
gonna,
plant
I'm gonna
today,
share a
so.
little experience with, and I might be out of place in doing so, but I was up at the library with John Henke on an issue that they're having with the roof. And nobody is, from Winseth was stepping up and taking care of it or really asserting themselves. So I'm not sure that's why I'd like to see what the other side is like. And I don't know if that still has been taken care of, but,
Well, we don't know if they were asked or not, I don't know.
well, they were there, yeah. I mean, it was, and it's been an ongoing thing, and that's why nothing's really seems to be getting resolved, so.
Yeah, that has been an issue that has been talked about for a while, and, I think there are solutions out there that are being considered, and,
Right, but if we're going to make a motion to hire somebody on as a consultant or as the city engineer, we want them to be a little responsive, I would think, and that's why maybe we should take a little time to take a look. It's my thought, that's all I'll say.
anybody else?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I believe I heard a motion from Dave to table until the next meeting. We
Oh,
didn't have a
okay.
we didn't have a second to that.
Okay, I'm
just for the
sorry,
record.
I'm sorry. So we have a motion on the floor to table this until the next meeting. And by that next meeting, we will want to have gone out for another proposal, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and-
Or are we
Yeah.
just saying we're not going to,
no, I think
Yeah.
we need to figure out what that is and then just
okay,
decide
okay.
what we're comfortable with.
Okay.
However, we want to each pursue that.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Shar, would you repeat that motion back, please, for me?
To table the issue till the next council meeting and bring proposals forward
Okay.
from other.
Is there any further discussion?
If I can, Madam Chair, we did go out for proposals a couple years ago, and we have that form and format, so we can just, and it's in Word, I'm sure, so we can
Last January.
take a look. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we did it this year.
Was it just last year?
We did it
Oh,
this
wow.
year, yeah.
Okay.
How time flies. But we'll just go back and
Okay.
request some proposals.
Sounds
I'm sure
good.
we'll get them.
Sounds good. Thank you. Is there any further discussion from the council?
I'm going to say it one more time, that we're going to get hourly rates, and if we get 3 sheets with hourly rates, we aren't going to be able to tell a thing. Unless you have a project that you're bidding, you're going to be able to see what the real hard numbers are. All you're going to get is numbers. But I'm okay if you want to go ahead with that, but you aren't going to know a thing.
There's a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No?
Aye. Okay, no. Motion carried, 3-2. Then the next one that we have is the commission appointments. And Cross Lake is fortunate to have a host of volunteers who generously give of their time and experience in varying capacities. You will notice included in your packet is an application from Steve Rowe for commission appointment to Economic Development. I hereby recommend the following commission appointments. Public Works, Sewer, and Cemetery Commission, Tim Berg, reappointment to 2nd term for 3 years. Dale Melberg, reappointment to first term, 3 years. Planning and Zoning Commission, Aaron Herzog, reappointment to second, 3-year term. Joel Knippel, reappointment to second year, 3-year term. Economic Development Authority, Patty Norgard, reappointment of required city council term to expire January 30th, 2020, excuse me. Gary Hecox, reappointment of required city council term to expire January 31st, 2021. Joe Smith, reappointment to first term, 6-year term. And Steve Rowe, appointment to fill vacancy expiring January 31st, 18. So is there a motion on the floor to approve the commission appointments as read?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Gary Hecox. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
Is economic development, is that typically a 6-year term for an appointment?
Typically a 6-year term, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Then our final one is commission liaisons. And these are appointed by the mayor, and I've talked with each one of them. And when I looked at the appointments, I looked at the experience of each and where they had been sitting for the past 2 to 4 years, and where they would have another opportunity to sit with other members of our community in various commissions. And those appointments are Building and Grounds, David Nevin; Economic Development Authority, Patty Norgard and Gary Hecox; Park and Recreational Library, Brad Nelson; Personnel Committee, Patty Norgard, Dave Schrupp, and Mike Linus, the Finance Director Treasurer. Planning and Zoning Commission, Dave Nevin; Public Safety, Patty Norgard; the Fire Chief, Chip Lohmuller; the Police Chief, Bob Hartman; and the City Administrator Consultant, Dan Vogt. Public Works and Cemetery Sewer, Dave Schrupp; Recycling, Gary Hecox; and Emergency Management Director, Bob Hartman. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the appointments of these particular council people?
I'll make a motion to approve.
First motion, Dave Schrupp. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Oh, wow. A lot of appointments. Thank you. Now we have the consent, we go on to the consent calendar. And as you can see, there are 30 items on the consent calendar, which makes for a lot of reading for the council and for you. However, there's a lot of important information, and I urge you to be informed citizens and read the meeting packets on our website. And just a point of reference, there is in the packet a contribution breakout that the Lions have given to the community, and so I challenge you to find out how much it was for 2016. And when you see a Lions member, thank them for all of the things that they do in our community. All items listed on the consent calendar are routine by the City Council and will be acted by in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so requests. Is there any questions or comments on the consent calendar? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving on. Under critical issues, Cindy Mugato, the director of our Chamber of Commerce, and her crew of hardworking people are up here asking and telling us all about the Winterfest and upcoming events.
Yes, good evening. Cindy Mugato with the Cross Lake Chamber of Commerce, and I have Jesse Ide here with Moonlight Bay Family Restaurant, who is the chair of the Winterfest Committee, and Laura Stromberg with Stromberg Chicks and Game Birds, who is the chair of the St. Patrick's Day Parade and Celebration.
So we are in full swing with the 14th Annual Winterfest festivities. We're underway. We have secured lots of wonderful sponsors in and throughout our town, and we thank them all. Our first day of Winterfest starts Thursday, February 2nd, with the Clues to Find the Lost Medallion. And again, all the businesses in town have really stepped up this year and sponsored and helped us put together a really great basket. We have excellent sponsorship, so we're going to have really good fireworks display on Friday night. The school starts off our Friday with their Cabin Fever Carnival, and then we move to the community center for all our ice skating, snow mountain, our horse-drawn wagon rides, bonfire, the fire trucks are there. And we really want to thank John Henke and the community center and Ted and the crew of Public Works for everything that they do to help us make this Friday night such a huge success. It has just grown and grown. Last year, we realized that we have to deal with like parking issues now. Like everybody just doesn't fit, so we have to, Cindy and I have to flag traffic down and stop everybody. So, and Saturday we have the fire department pancake breakfast. There's radar runs, Italian Olympics, bocce ball tournaments, helicopter rides. The Army Corps has a lot of stuff going on. There's events everywhere. So we really try and get people into town during this kind of lull point in the winter. So it gives all the businesses a boost at the real slow time. So we again have a Soup Fest this year, and so I need to request a motion from the council to give permission for the chamber to organize the Soup Fest in Cross Lake, February 4th, per Minnesota State Department of Health regulations. And we hope to see you all there to have fun.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the permit to organize Soup Fest according to the Minnesota Statutes of Health, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Do you guys have anything else you want to say?
I need to.
Perfect.
I need to address the council. Good evening, I'm Laura Stromberg. I'm chairing the St. Patrick's Day Committee this year. Just a couple of things to go over with you folks. I'm sure you're familiar with the celebrations. Raffle tickets are going to go on sale early in March. The drawing is going to be on the 25th of March, 2017. We kick it off on Thursday. We start with the Pot of Gold, Daily Clues, to do the scavenger hunt throughout the city, get people out into community, exploring, visiting businesses, that sort of thing. Friday, we have entertainment all over Cross Lake at all the local establishments. Saturday, we have all of the classics. The Firefighters Pancake Breakfast, the hot air balloon rides through RE/MAX. This year, there's going to be the 4th annual Clover Dash. Big success. We're drawing more and more numbers with that every year. The race starts at 9:30 a.m. Then we do pre-parade entertainment for a couple of hours. The parade will commence at 2 o'clock. And then we have post-parade entertainment with all of the feature volunteers kind of visiting the different establishments. So what I'm here to do is ask for permission to host the raffle party in Cross Lake and to use the Cross Lake city streets and resources and assistance, specifically from Ted Strand and their crew for March 18th, 2017 in the St. Patrick's Day celebrations.
Dan, do we need a motion on that, or is she just asking for permission?
For the raffle, we need a motion.
For the raffle, you need a motion. Okay. Anybody care to entertain a motion to approve the raffle for the St. Patrick's Day Parade and to work in accordance with their wishes?
So moved.
Motion by Gary. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brad Nelson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
The next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. And tonight is our first proclamation, so it's kind of exciting that it's happening on the first council meeting of 2017. But Cross Lake Community School is a valuable asset to our city, and we recognize the value of the outstanding education of our future leaders. So it is a pleasure to read the proclamation commemorating City of Cross Lake School Choice, which is a nationally recognized program. So this proclamation commemorating City of Cross Lake School Choice Week reads, whereas all children in the City of Cross Lake should have access to the highest quality education possible, and whereas the City of Cross Lake recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in the City of Cross Lake to be successful adults. And whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of the City of Cross Lake. And whereas the City of Cross Lake is home to a multitude of excellent education options from which parents can choose for their children. And whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas our area has many high-quality teaching professionals who are committed to educating our children. And whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options. Now, therefore, I, Patty Norgard, do hereby recognize January 22nd through the 28th, 2017, as City of Cross Lake School Choice Week, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. So, Todd Licio, the director of our school, do you want to come up here and accept a plaque for your school, and to be given by David Nevin? And I think it's appropriate that David gives out this plaque, as he has had 4 children who have gone through the community school.
On behalf of the city, good luck. Thank you so much. The next 5 years will be something to watch.
Todd, do you have a few comments?
I never have anything to say. People who know me know that's not true, but thank you so
I was
much.
just going to say something, Todd. I was going to speak up. You're going to say something.
First of all, I'm humbled and I'm honored to accept this on behalf of the school, and it really is a tremendous honor. It's an honor for me to be the school leader. When I wish that I had written this, because whoever did really captured the essence, I think, of what our school is all about and what the purpose of National School Choice Week is. And that's exactly what we do. We offer an option, we offer a choice. Outstate Minnesota doesn't have nearly the same opportunities, I think, as you get down to the metro area. And so we're very pleased and happy to be able to serve not just this community, but this area. And I'm very pleased and proud to be part of it myself. So thank you. But I want to hear what you had to say.
Yeah.
Did you have words of wisdom, Dan, or?
No. I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Oh. On behalf
Okay.
of our board and our students and our staff, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Todd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the city administrator's report. However, I wasn't quite finished. I wanted to just let you know that it is really, I think, going to be an experience being your mayor. And one of the things we've always talked about, not only today, yesterday, a year ago, 5 years ago, is the transparency in city government and as it pertains to Cross Lake. And I know that it's been mentioned many times that these council meetings are available on Channel 12. You can see them on YouTube. You can, of course, read all about the agenda in the city packets that are on the website. One of the other things that I am going to do is to be available as much as possible, meaning that every Wednesday from noon to 4:30, I will be in the office. If you want to come in and chat, I'd love to see you. Also, I will be having a monthly column in the Echo and the Northland Press. So the idea is to let you know that myself and the rest of your council are here to serve the people of Cross Lake, and we look forward to working with all of you. Thank you. City Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had just a few items, a couple just reminder items after my my two items I have on the agenda. First one is approval of the employee handbook amendments. Since we no longer have the Cross Lake Communications Company, a number of adjustments were necessary to be made to the handbook, and you see the items that were crossed out relate to office manager or general manager or accountant. Those aren't positions that were part of our operation, but were part of Cross Lake Communications. We also changed the organizational chart as well. There were a couple other items that were redundancies that were crossed out, and if we caught something that really needed to be adjusted, we went ahead and made that. And the only one I noted is on page 16 in other benefits, and that's noted in red on your sheet. But this is the handbook that needs adjustment since we no longer have Cross Lake Communications. There's a few other things related to the communications company that we'll be coming back to you with, but we're going to let a little more time pass before we go ahead with those. So my recommendation would be to approve the adjustments to the employee handbook as proposed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion
I have a question on page 2.
of the handbook?
Yes, on the third paragraph.
Yeah, this, it shows up in a number of locations. It also shows up on page 34, which is way at the end, and we just thought that, we weren't sure why it was in here so many times. We left it in on the bottom of page 34 under number 2. It says the existence of the handbook does not change the at-will status of all employees hired after October 8th, 2012.
I guess what I'm reading is the status of all employees employed by the city prior to October 8th, 2012 is determined by their letter of hire.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're deleting that. I'm wondering, do we have agreements with any employees that we're now going to say is null and void?
No, the employee, or I don't believe the agreement is gone just because we're doing this. The agreement is still there.
The valid, they're still
Sure.
valid, okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear, all right.
Well, we just noted that the language just kept appearing time after time.
all right.
Didn't see why it kept coming up in there, so.
Are there any other questions or comments? And so there is a motion on the floor to approve the City of Cross Lake Employee Handbook. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Item 2 is a memo dated January 5th, as well as a number of attaching items from a previous council meeting regarding non-contract employee wage and benefit adjustment proposal. Wages have been taken care of, which you did in November. However, we had a discussion at the time about a severance program. Currently, the language is noted in here, the way the severance works, all accumulated sick leave that an employee receives under 800 hours, if they leave employment and they have under 800 hours, they don't get anything. It's only the over 800 hours. What we wanted to do is take a look at a program, and the department heads and I talked about this, is as an incentive to not use up their sick time. Under this scenario, when a person is eligible to retire, and I want to, Dave and I talked about this a little bit this afternoon, but I want to make sure that that's part of this, was noted in my November 14th memo, that when a person is eligible to retire under PERA, and right now that is either you're in Rule of 90, which is age plus years of service equals 90, so if you're 56 and 34 years of service, okay, now you've hit Rule of 90. Currently, employees hired after 1989, it's a little different. It's no longer Rule of 90, but you have to be at least 55 years of age to get a monthly pension from PERA. So that's kind of how we wanted to pattern this. So employees that have, let's say they're going to retire at age 55 and they've been here a long time and they have 600 hours of sick leave built up, in the old program, they would get 0. Under this program, they would get that 600 hours. Anything, I'm just using 600 as an example. This one says 800. Anything over the 800 hours, and it takes you a long time to get to that 800 hours because you're getting 96 hours a year. You get 8 hours a month, turned to 12 months. So 96 hours a year is what you earn. So it's going to take you quite a while to get there. Anything over that 800 hours, we would take half of that amount and put it into their health savings account. The state of Minnesota has a program that I've been involved in. It's a post-employment health care savings plan. It's tax-free money in, tax-free coming out, and it can only be used for health care. So the way this proposal reads is that we would, for employees that are eligible to retire, have their sick time, if they have 800 hours, they would get all 800 hours, and anything over that, of course, has already gone into their into their health care savings plan. So it's an additional benefit. I noted in both memos that from November and now that the unions are probably going to want it. It does, I mean, it potentially adds cost. You can look at it as, okay, an employee is here for a number of years and they're never going to get to the 800 hours. They're not going to retire here. That the fear or the problem with that is those employees may just take a day a month. Well, they use up their sick time because they know they're never going to get there anyway, and they're never going to get any of it. So this is an incentive, I think, to keep people from using their sick time. I know it worked in a previous employment that I had. It does, I mean, there's cost here, obviously, but it's a good incentive for people to come to work and stay here.
Are there any questions or comments for Dan?
So if, when it comes to the cost, it's kind of the pay you now, pay you later deal, because I know there's been some concerns over managing of departments because people will just take that sick day one way or the other because they're not going to lose it.
Yep.
So whether they're just sniffling or actually really physically sick, and you're going to pay them, right? If they, you can't argue it, you got to pay them then. So why would you, discredit the employee that is legitimately coming to work because they're not sick? I see it as, I see it as a win-win in a lot of ways for the city. I mean, yes, there is some cost, but what you're doing is you're taking it away from the person who was more loyal and worked harder and didn't goof around by taking that free day a month, so to speak, right, which the city is paying for. So I just don't see it as being, when you say there's cost to it, I mean, I understand that there's some cost there. That can build up to be a big chunk of money when you look at 800 hours, but then again, I think it's only fair that the person that, like I say, doesn't take advantage of the system doesn't get, docked for it.
Yeah, I had my previous experience when we put this in, and it's not only the up to the 800 hours, but it's the overage. Because once they hit that cap, there was no incentive on the amount over the cap. I mean, it was the day a month. I mean, they knew they were going to lose it anyway, and that's why I kind of hesitated a little bit when I said there's potentially a cost there. But, on the other hand, there's a cost on the other side of it too, when you can't manage your department. Can't have trouble managing your department properly because people end up calling in sick and you need employees. So The recommendation is for approval. We've talked to the department heads, and they came up with it, and we'll, two things would happen. One is, I'm talking about a switch, so we eliminate what we have in the employee handbook that we just approved and approve the new plan, and we'll make sure that the wording is in there as you approve it this evening.
So let me just ask one more question then. About the 75% and the 50, is that gone?
Done.
That's gone. So this is just, if you retire, you get whatever sick pay
Yep.
you've accumulated.
Yeah. Plus, yeah, exactly, up to the 800 hours.
Up to the 800, so.
And then yearly, let's say in a year, you earn 96, you use a bunch, so you get, let's say you got 80 left. At the end of that year, or the beginning of the next year, you're going to get 40 of those hours into the sick time, healthcare savings plan.
And where does the other 40 go? Just into a credit that they've got 40 that carries over?
I'm sorry?
Well, if you got 80 hours at the end of the year, 40 hours goes into the health savings.
Yeah.
account. Where does the other 40 go?
It's gone. It's just
Gone.
gone, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Any other questions for Dan before we move on this?
I have one question, Dan. Just so I think it's important for people to know this, if this is true, and that's what I'm going to ask you. I had a friend a little bit older whose wife worked for the county for many, many years, and she banked up so much sick time that she actually walked out the door 3, 4, 5 months early and essentially got paid for it. There was a time where is that correct? And I mean, back in the day, so to speak, wasn't there? I mean, there was employees that would work for a city or a county or whatever for many, many years and retire and have, literally potentially hundreds of days worth of sick time built up and would actually kind of like almost retire months early and get paid for that.
Yeah, there's programs out there that do that, and there's not a lot of county employees left, I don't think, but there are some there that are getting 100% health insurance paid by the county, and that has been phased out years ago.
But I just wanted to make that point, that there was a time where, where you could actually bank all that up to the end to your advantage. So once again, pay me now or pay me later. I think as far as city managing money, you're a little bit more every year is easier to manage than having something like that where, where you have to pay a big chunk at the end. So just a comment.
Are we ready to make a motion on this wage benefit adjustment proposal? I'll entertain a motion from the floor.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Dave first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Just a couple of reminders. I was talking to the mayor earlier today and gave her some information regarding the Board of Equalization training. Gary is trained as a board member for the Board of Equalization. That's the meeting in May or so that talks about valuations of your property. You need at least one member of the Board of Equalization trained. If you don't have a member trained, it reverts to the county, so the county becomes a Board of Equalization, and you may or may not want to do that. But I did give the information to the mayor. It can be done, I believe, online. It says it takes about 60 minutes or so to do, so any or all of you can do that, but we'll have at least, it sounds like the mayor's going to do it, so we may have at least two trained, so.
Yep. We could put copies in their mailboxes too, if anybody else is
I
interested.
can forward the email, and there's a link.
Sure. So for anyone else who would be
Go
interested.
ahead and do that.
Okay.
Okay, and my plan, it would be to attend your next meeting via phone, and I'll be here in March. Oh, and I'm sorry, Shar just noted, one of the items under the critical issues, we did have an application for group transient merchant permit, and that needs to be approved in addition to the... We
sorry,
did have the
yes.
approval of the, I think...
Application
yeah.
in the consent
The one that's in the,
calendar.
yeah, the one that's on the packet, we don't, you had approval to go ahead with the raffle.
Did everybody
but
see
not
that
this.
application from Cross Lake Lutheran Church? Asking,
This needs to be a motion,
probably? Oh, Chamber?
the chamber.
Asking for
Group transient merchant
Yeah.
permit.
Okay. So can we have a motion on the floor? Cindy, did you have any more comments on that? Okay.
Thanks.
The group transient merchant permit would cover any vendors selling wares or food or anything which we don't have, but if somebody showed up for Winterfest on February 4th, St. Patrick's Day, March 18th, and Cross Lake Days, which would be September 30th, where we do have vendors, and we do have them for St. Patrick's Day as well, but, so it would be three different days during the year that the chamber would cover the permit for anybody selling wares or food on the streets.
You would still issue a permit, though, for them? The chamber would?
The city is issuing the permit for the chamber to approve the vendors.
Okay.
So if a vendor wanted to come to town and peddle their wares, they would be covered under the chamber's permit. And would need to go to you for permission. They would need to come to the chamber for
But
permission.
they would need your
Yep.
permission to
Yep.
do it?
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Cindy? Otherwise, I'd like to entertain a motion from the floor for transient merchant permit.
So moved?
Second.
We have a first by Dave, second by Gary. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you, Cindy.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vogt. Now we'll go on to our commission reports. Planning and zoning.
Good evening. I don't have any action items for you tonight, just some information. Typically, Chris would get up here and give you a year-end report, but he's getting a suntan like Dan has right now, so he can't be here. I'm not going to read the report. You have it in your consent agenda on our numbers that we have. I'm just going to highlight a few items that you might find interesting. This last year, in 2016, we issued 250 permits. That's an 11% increase over the previous year. We started out the year with 4 enforcement cases that carried over from 2015. We had 10 additional enforcement cases that I went out on, and all of them are closed at the end of the year here. We went through, and of the 250 permits that were issued, about a third of them required, or a little more than a third, required a stormwater management plan. I issued, along with their permits, 94 stormwater management plans. It's a 47% increase over the previous year. So we're getting out and around and making people take care of the stormwater that they have coming off their yards. In 2016, I did 617 site visits. That's individual boots on the ground in somebody's yard, checking up to make sure, either issuing a permit, just a site visit to answer their questions on what they can do, or follow up for stormwater management and building, the buildings that were going up, making sure they're still meeting the setbacks. We had 151 septic inspections within the city, and 3 of them were failed systems. So we are at 98% positive, only 2% negative on that one. It's about normal for a year, what we have there. As far as variances, we get a lot of people that we hear stuff that goes on out here. We'll start out with our development review teams. We had 28 DRTs that we conducted this last year. And that's where people come in, sit down with us, and we go over what their proposal is and try to help them figure out, do they need a variance, a conditional use, or can we just say, do something different and you won't have to have a variance or a conditional use. So of those 28 people that came in and did DRTs, we actually had 16 of them come in for a variance. 2 of those were denied. That's an 85% approval rating. And just another piece of that, 3 of those that were approved were after-the-fact variances, where people had already done what they were going to do and they came back in and tried to get a permit afterwards. Compared to previous years, in 2015, we were at 80% approval. 2014 at 91% approval, and that's pretty consistent until we get back to 2008, where they approved all 15 of the variances that came before the Planning Commission. So that just highlights of what we've been doing over the last year. And then I wanted to give a reminder that on January 26th at 10 o'clock, we're going to be having a joint Planning Commission and City Council meeting here in the chambers to discuss what potential updates you might want to have on the land use ordinance. We've got a few things that we're going over. I encourage you guys to take a look at that, please, when you get the email or the letter. And if there's something else you want to discuss, really what we're going to talk about and what the Planning Commission wants to talk about are accessory structure sizes, controlled access to the lake, which you talked about at the last meeting. They do want to discuss the camping ordinance part of the land use. Can you camp on your property with or without a primary residence? Really kind of go through what the city expects of the county employees, myself and Cheryl and Chris, what our duties really are, and what resources do we bring to the table for you for what we're doing here. And then I believe that they also want to talk a little bit about wastewater treatment. Are we going to do any kind of community septic systems, or is the city going to get involved in expanding the septic lines so that, or the sewer lines, so that it can access more places? So again, that's January 26th at 10 o'clock, right after our site visits that we have for the Planning Commission. Any questions?
Any questions for John?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Next is Park and Library report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, hello.
All right. Staff report for tonight. Just want to update folks that have kids in the area. We do have a K through second grade basketball program going on at the community center right now. Cost is only $10 for players that participated in our fall session, and $20 for players that are new to the program. So still got time to register for that program. Also starting a new club at the community center. It's a Bunko Club. Bunko is a game that's played with dice. We've got a local citizen that came forward and wanted to develop this new program, and so we're working with them to get this going. So we've set aside Mondays from 1 to 3:30. We'll be starting the program on February 6th. It is free to play. So you can come to the community center to learn more about this new game. Next item, my staff report has changed quite a bit on this item here. That's why I'm sending around a new description of what we're looking at. For the last couple of months, I've been talking to the council about looking for a piece of equipment to pull our track setter at the park, and we have been using the fire department's Ranger, Polaris Ranger that they have. And we talked about some of the risks of doing that, one being that there's an emergency situation and we have that piece of equipment 4 miles out on our trails, which is our first concern. Our other concern is that our staff is transporting that, loading that equipment on trailers and transferring that around town. It's not an efficient use of staff time, and there are some dangers in moving that, especially when our maintenance man, Ron Harkin, is operating by himself to do that. So we looked at some options. We thought we had found the perfect option last week. We had looked at a diesel 2015 that they had down in Brainerd, and at the time when I wrote the staff report, we were pretty set that that was going to be the piece of equipment for us. When we went and test drove the Ranger, we realized that that wasn't the piece of equipment for us. And so I went back to the drawing board, and I apologize for writing the staff report. The staff reports have to be turned in Wednesday or Thursday, and that's just the nature of the beast. But the important thing is that we checked the equipment over, and I made sure that we were making an appropriate purchase for our long-term use at the park and for the benefit of the city. So tonight, my updated proposal, we're working with the Cross Lake Ideal Lions Club and the PAL Foundation to try to get some funds to be able to purchase a Ranger to do our grooming at the park. We are also looking at the use of this piece of equipment to do our summer trail tours, which happen every Wednesday, and the piece will also be used to do various maintenance around the park. We plan on holding on to this piece of equipment. Usually 10 to 12 years is what we got out of our last Kawasaki Mule that we had. You can say we ran it until the wheels fell off, and that's not far from the truth. We had a lot of hours on that, and so we hang on to our equipment and take good care of it. What we're looking for tonight is authorization for the use of $20,500 in park capital outlay funds from the 2017 budget to go towards making this purchase. The PAL Foundation has received some donations from local skiers that are supporting this initiative, and we plan on approaching the local Lions Club for additional assistance. The Minnesota Design Team has talked about ways of bringing more people to the community in the wintertime, and we feel that this is an appropriate use of city funds to try to promote business in our local community. By considering this motion tonight, we would ask that we would have a not-to-exceed amount of $26,000, and that the motion to provide the use of these funds would be contingent on securing the $5,500 in funding that we're going to need to complete this purchase. Basically, the PAL Foundation has been instrumental in developing our trails at the park. Just wanted to put a copy of our trail map up on the screen. We have 6 miles of trails in Cross Lake that we maintain. The PAL Foundation has paid for almost 100% of these development funds to pay for this, so this didn't come from taxpayers' wallets. This came from the donations of our community members and also our local nonprofit, the PAL Foundation. We've also worked with Crow Wing County to put these trails in, give you some ideas of what the trail looks like. We built bridges with funds through the PAL Foundation over some wetland areas, also working with Crow Wing Soil and Water. This is a picture of the completed bridge out there. There's a nice photo of where the trail goes through some pines. This is the groomer that the PAL Foundation spent almost $6,000. This is the piece that we're looking to pull behind the Ranger. And last but not least, this is a picture of the unit we're looking at. It's a crew model, so we can do our summer trail tours with this. It holds 6 passengers. And so that just gives you a basic idea of what the unit looks like. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but basically the motion is authorization to use up to $20,500 from 2017 Park Capital Outlay funds to go towards the purchase of the 2017 Polaris Ranger 900 XP EPS. The approval of this motion would be contingent on the Park Department collecting the additional funds needed to make this purchase through donations from local individuals and organizations. A not to exceed amount of the purchase of the 2017 Polaris Ranger would be set at $26,000. So happy to answer any questions the council might have at this time.
Council, do you have any questions for John?
Is that a track Ranger? Is it reversible? Your tires come off and tracks go on?
Yes, that price would include the tracks, and it comes with the tires, so we'd use the tracks in the winter, pull those off, and then in the spring put the wheels back on the unit. So.
And you've got what is the price of that thing? I mean, you got to have a price for it, right?
We're working with the state bid contract on prices right now currently, but at one dealership in Brainerd, it was $28,000, and we think we can get the purchase down to right around $26,000. So that's what we're left with. Keep in mind that, we're getting this unit, basically for $20,500. I'm going to go out and find the funds to buy the balance of this. I know this doesn't happen with a lot of departments. We take pride in raising funds to make these purchases, and have been very frugal with the dollars that we spend at the Park Department through the years.
Always have done a good job with that, John. But you've got a not to exceed 26.5, so does that mean that's what you're going to spend, but the city's liable for 20? Is that what they're asking for?
Right.
Yes.
So just out of curiosity, what's the life expectancy of one of these?
Well, we've had, our Kawasaki Mule had, I don't know how many countless hours, at 11,000, I can't remember the hours that it had. We had that almost 11 years.
11 years.
Before we replaced it, so.
So they last
They
a
get a
while.
lot of use. I mean, these are utility pieces that we use for everything at the park, from maintaining ball fields to the 6 miles of trails, to hauling stuff over to the community garden. This is our pickup, really. This is, you know, we get everyone else's older pickups because these pieces are more important to us than a pickup is. That's our workhorse, basically. This is the piece that we do most of our work with, so.
So it's a multi-purpose vehicle.
Exactly. It'll be, you know, we could use a snowmobile. Snowmobiles are much cheaper to purchase just for grooming. But you're not using the snowmobile in the summer. You can't do trail tours like we do on a consistent basis to bring people out onto the trails. And most importantly, we are recruiting people in from other communities to come spend money in Cross Lake. Martin Sport Shop, as a good example, last week had called, and they've been sending people over there, and they wanted some trail maps. They didn't have any trail maps in their store, so we ran some trail maps down here. So down to them last week. Joel Knippel ran those down for us, and so yeah, we're looking forward to a new piece and being able to keep our trails groomed on a more frequent basis. Right now, we're grooming our trails every week and a half, just because it's really inconvenient to drive up, to put the unit from the fire department on a trailer, take it to the park, take it off the trailer, groom the trails, put it back on the trailer, go to Public Works, power wash it, take it back to the fire department, take it off the trailer, squeegee the floor at the fire department, and then Ron returns to the park department. So that's the process that we are going through right now.
And then hope that nothing happened to it in the meantime.
Exactly. If something happens to it, we still got to fix it. You know, it's a borrowed piece of equipment, and it's also not there if an emergency comes up. So we feel fairly confident this is going to suit our needs.
So we're in January now, and we got a budget set for the Park and Rec, and now they're asking for $20,000. How does that work in a budget that was just set for the year?
He has,
He has
We've already
this-
got the money.
He has this in his,
But when they set a budget, do you itemize it, or do you just got a slush
Yep,
fund?
everything, well, this year we have a capital outlay fund balance for purchases in the park of $60,000. At the December meeting, we rolled over almost $14,000 from unspent funds from 2016. So we've got that dedicated fund with the 14 in it, and then we also have another fund that has $60,000 for capital outlay expenditures this year, so.
So without increasing anything, you got $74,000 that you can spend this year.
Yes, if the council chose to do that, we could possibly do that.
For 4 or 5 months a year, are those trails primarily for cross-country skiing?
That's the only thing we can do once the snow flies and
Yeah.
we use it there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
are there any other questions for John?
no?
Are we ready to entertain a motion on his request? Would somebody like to make that motion?
John, I see certainly the convenience, and I know that that's your workhorse, but just a question, because it was
Sure.
it was brought up to me that part of the original purchase of the one in the fire department was with the idea that we could use it in more places in the city, because quite frankly, it's sitting in the fire department more than it's being used in the fire department. I fully realize the potential for a conflict as far as that one day that it is 4 miles back in the woods and something comes up. I mean, there is that possibility, and you know, there is, you know, obviously some inconvenience in time. You know, I'm just laying that out there, that, you know, when the more equipment we buy, the more equipment we insure. Seems like you probably have more of a use for it down there. And understanding that with the fire department, an emergency is an emergency. But that thing also probably at the end of a year probably doesn't have 50 miles on it.
Yeah, we use it more
but-
than they do.
Right.
That's true, yeah.
So I just, you know, I guess I see where down in your department, it's probably more of a practical item than it is just just necessarily for the grooming, but.
Correct.
Do you have anything that's replacing that's being replaced by that machine that you can maybe sell and offset some of the costs?
We don't at this time. We have our touring cart that we do our trail tours on. It's basically a golf cart that doesn't have any suspension. And what we found is we take a lot of older people out on the trail, and some of those older people don't come back for the trail a second time because the ride is so rough. So we're hoping that this can take the place, if we don't have a full cart, that we can use this Instead of that, this does have suspension. It have a world of difference in the ride. That cart really isn't designed for doing those things, but
So you had a mule, though, for 10, 11 years?
yes.
And at the time that you wore that out, for some reason, you chose not to
We got
replace
trade-in,
it?
we got trade-in value for that, and we do have a John Deere Gator 2-passenger that we use at the park for this. It doesn't have power steering. That's about 7 years old. The power steering comes in handy like this one has, when you put tracks on a vehicle, to turn that vehicle,
Yeah.
and you need
Yeah,
power steering
yeah,
on
I
these
understand.
vehicles. It's
I just didn't
essential.
know when you said I wondered why, if we had that
Right.
mule and we used it so much, why it wasn't immediately
Exactly,
replaced at
yes,
the time
we-
we wore it out.
We traded that in and got the Gator for that mule, so, yep.
Good questions. Are there any other comments? Gary?
No.
Dave?
No?
Are we ready to entertain a motion on the floor to support?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Motion by Gary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. I'll give you an update next month's meeting. Okay. We've got a new format for our book sale this year, and I wanted to get approval from the council and just give you kind of an update on what our plan is. Typically, we've always had our book sale the first weekend in August, and it involves moving over 10,000 books for a one-weekend sale. They start working on it the Saturday before the sale, and they work every day, all day, up until and through the sale, and then the following week, we have to take everything down, put it in boxes. Some of the items are donated, some of the items are hauled to the dump, some of them are put back in storage for the next year's book sale. Our volunteers for that sale are getting older every year, and some of them are to the point where they're not able to participate anymore because it is just too much work. So we started looking at additional ways we could keep that revenue flow and eliminate some of that work. And so what we're looking at is taking room number 3 and developing bookshelves in that room so we can have multiple sales during the year. So instead of taking the books from the library, put them in boxes, take them down to the warming house, storing them for 6, 8, 10, 12 months a year and bringing them back up and back and forth every year, putting the best books on the bookshelves in room number 3 and then setting the dates for our sales, advertising for that, and having our sales on more of a regular basis, using our volunteers to host those sales similar to what we do in August. So this is going to eliminate a lot of setup once the books are on the shelves. They're not moved. It'll look good in the room. The shelves will be secured to the wall, so they'll be safe. So that's kind of our plan. So this would replace our annual book sale. We'd still have a sale that weekend because of a lot of our people that are in the community are used to that first weekend in August, whether they're up at their cabins or up on vacation. A lot of people have come to that sale for years and years, and we make $5,000 to $6,000 every time we have that sale. So we want to continue having that revenue come in. That's a benefit to the library. And so our motion is basically to use reserve funds to build the shelves, first of all, get approval from you guys to use room number 3 and put those shelves in there. And to the funds to pay for the shelves, like I said, would come out of the dedicated library reserve account, and the revenues would go back into that reserve account. A good example of how that reserve account is used, this year the library was $5,000 over their budget. What happens then is $5,000 is taken out of that reserve account to make up for that overage that the library had. So that's how we keep the library budget in check, by using those funds that are in that reserve account. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have, but that is our new plan for operating sales for the library and producing revenue for our operations.
Have anyone in our audience ever, or on the council, ever volunteered at a book sale?
We haven't skied either. Pay taxes.
Okay, well, thank you to those volunteers. I have helped out from time to time, and it's a lot of work. So, any questions for John?
Are you losing any use of room number 3 by doing that?
No, we still use that for meetings, and, just like having books along the wall is what we're doing, and it doesn't really change the use of that room, so still function as a meeting room.
Any other questions? Could I have a motion from the floor to approve the purchase of materials for the
Shelves?
shelves?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
As part of the Minnesota Design Team process, one of the goals and objectives that they laid out was the possible addition of a dog park in Cross Lake. And so we've been working with those folks and some community folks that have been meeting. We met for the second time today and talked about different locations for a dog park in town. We're also working with the Minnesota League of Cities, the Minnesota Park and Rec Association, and the National Park Association to come up with their policies and procedures for the development of these facilities. And we meet the second Monday of the month at 4:30, so it coincides with the council meeting nights, basically. And if anyone is interested in joining us, you can join us at the Community Center at 4:30 on February 13th. We'll be bringing a recommendation to the Park Commission, and our goal is to raise all the funds for this project. All the funds will be donated. We're planning on hoping to get those donations and get some fencing put up and develop an area for folks in the community that enjoy dog parks. So dog parks are popular all across the country. This isn't something new. Brainerd has one. Pequot Lakes has one. People have been talking about it here forever. And now we're just, as part of the Minnesota Design Team process, we're just starting to look at the possibility of adding one in Cross Lake. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll be giving you updates here each month and probably be coming back with a recommendation on a site, maybe even as early as next month. So, all right. Another new program that we're starting at the community center is a micro airplane club. And give you an example of, should pass that around, Brad, if you could. Paul Dorweller is a member of our community that makes these planes and is a member of a microplane association. They're basically radio-controlled planes. That one is just an example of what they are, but Paul flies these outside in the summer, but in the winter he has a hard time flying them. Obviously, there's snow on the ground. He's retired. There's a few other people that have been out in the park flying these planes in the past. And so Paul came forward to us and asked if he could fly these in the gymnasium. My response was, well, we can't have other people in the gymnasium if you're gonna do this. Even though it's super lightweight, we don't want to be flying planes in there while the space is being utilized by other folks. So anyway, so I've kind of explained the logistics of what the program will be. All those planes will weigh much less than 2 pounds. We're going to set aside a special time. There'll be a charge for the rate for the gym for this club, like the other community clubs that utilize the gymnasium. That's $11 for an hour. Liability waivers will be signed by all participants. And so basically that sums up what we'd like to do. But since this is different than our policies that we've had for the gym in the past, we need a motion to be able to approve starting this new program to fly these micro airplanes in the gymnasiums from Tuesday from 10:30 to 11:30. So the charge would be $11 an hour, and we would announce that the gym is being reserved outside the doors. It would go on our open gym schedule, and the participants would pay and sign the waivers before using a facility for this use. So
these planes run on gas?
No, they're all electric, battery operated. So that was one of the things that when I looked up different rules and with the park associations, that's a no-no. Obviously, you could have a fire with that, so none of them are gas operated.
Are there any other questions for John? Otherwise, is the council ready to make a motion to approve the establishment of the Micro Airplane Club? Or do you need some further clarification?
I'll
Seems
make
like
a motion, we approve.
Okay?
small space, but if Park and Rec has talked about this and they feel that's a suitable use for in there,
Okay, we have
See how
a
it goes. We've never done it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
motion on the floor by Dave. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Gary Heacock, second. Any further discussion?
So you're not taking any time away from anybody else? You got available time, that's why you're
Yes,
considering
yeah.
it, I'm
Yeah, and
sure.
the gym is getting, it's tricky to find times for the gym, because in the winter, a lot of people like to come and walk. So it's important that we advertise our open gym schedule, what's in the gym at different times, so people know, they don't just show up and then another activity's going on in here. So this is the time that, the only time really that we found that was, worked for the person that wants to start this club and works for our regular
So
schedule.
it probably won't be on weekends,
It won't be on weekends, no.
and
We
it
couldn't
won't
do
be
it
in the
then.
summer or...
No,
yeah.
they're gonna fly outside in the summer, so.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay, there is a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Another couple new programs that we have that we're starting is we've reserved the basketball court 9:30 to 11:30 on Saturday mornings for full court basketball. We've had a request for this, and you know, during open gym we allow people to play basketball, but sometimes when people come in with real small kids and want to just shoot baskets in there, and there's a full court game of older kids or adults, that's very intimidating. So we had some parents kind of complain that, you know, about the fact that their little kids couldn't go in there and they couldn't work with them over Christmas break. And so we decided that we should probably just set aside a time for that type of activity. And otherwise, we'll keep it at half court during the general open gym time. So we've set this time aside on Saturday mornings. We also have set aside Thursday mornings from 10:30 to 11:30 as children's playtime in the gym. This coincides with our story hour that takes place in the library. So that's just an update on two new programs that we're starting for the community members here in town. Next AAA senior driving class will take place Thursday, January 26th from 9 to 1. Interested participants can call AAA at 888-234-1294, or you can call the community center for their number. And the last item on my list tonight, the Knights of Columbus free throw competition. Annually, we hold this competition usually at the end of January. This year it'll be Sunday, January 29th from 12:30 to 2. So if there isn't any other questions of me, that is my report for tonight.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
The next item on our agenda tonight is the city attorney report.
I had two items, actually. The first of them is city staff referred a county auditor report to me on a campaign violation issue. None of us really know what to do with it, so my action item is do nothing unless I'm directed by a council. But it's been sitting on our desks for a while from the county auditor.
Can you explain it a little bit?
They must issue a report every year. It's the first time I've ever seen one, actually. But one or two individuals in the city gave more than you can give $600 per election cycle, per individual. So the question, I guess, is, I'm assuming we're doing nothing unless the council directs us to do more, but is there something the council wants to do about it from a violation standpoint? Or just let it sit? But I mean, the county gave us the
$600
report.
max that anybody can give, period.
Evidently.
How much was given?
Shar would have the report. I think a couple maybe gave a couple hundred more than that or something like that, 150 more, I can't remember off the top of my head. 750 total.
Any comments from the council or direction?
Do you feel like it had an impact on anything?
I have no opinion. I mean, if first of all, the main point would be, I suppose, I've heard some people talking about it. I don't know if all of you know about it, so the main point is, Char's got a copy. But as staff, I don't think we're empowered to really comment or do anything about it from an enforcement mechanism unless the council directs us to. So it's just to be put in her pile and put away unless something else is to be done, but that's a council decision, not up to staff. So I just wanted to make sure it was announced. And I had nothing further on that topic unless there's any other questions. But you can get a copy from Char if you'd like it.
Any other questions or further discussions?
And the other issue would be, once we're done with the meeting tonight, we're not done, but we're done with the open agenda, I'd like to maybe adjourn to the mayor's quarters, or whatever we call that little room over there, like we've done in the past, for a closed session regarding a potential settlement of a current litigation item we have with the city. And then, of course, if we make any final action, we would come back into this chambers to announce that decision.
And we need a motion on the floor.
Whenever you're ready to do that, I mean, basically to adjourn to that space, yes, I would like a motion to go into closed session.
And so we would want that motion now, before we adjourn the meeting.
Well, you could do it now and just obviously pending any final, if you want to handle the old and new business public forum, if you'd like, that's up to
Okay.
you. That way people can maybe go home if they'd
Sure, we
like.
can finish, we'll finish the rest of the agenda. Under old business, the only thing I had was, we know that a lot of people sometimes leave the cold country for warmer climes, and our next council meeting in February is the 13th, and I'm just curious, will everybody be here for that meeting?
I won't.
You will not. Gary will not. Is there anyone else? So then we would have a quorum. Okay, so we will have our February 13th meeting then. Okay? Is there any other old business? New business? I think we took care of that. I found out that Char had put in the mailboxes of all the council members the ballots for voting for the director of the National Joint Powers Alliance. And Dan, if you want to hold it up, that's what it looks like. So please take it and read it and follow the directions.
Yeah, and if I can,
Yeah.
just the ballot looks like this. You probably have seen it. If you choose to vote, just go ahead and vote, drop it off with Char, and then we'll send those on to the NJPA by the date that they had indicated.
Great, thank you. Public forum. You've been here almost 8:29, and no action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given about 3-minute limit. Mark, you had raised your hand?
My name is Mark LaFawn. I live at 13058 Happy Cove Road. My family has owned the property for 51 years. I've got several comments, and I'll make them quickly. Number one, transparency that you mentioned at the very start. By making us wait throughout an hour and a half to come up with this, you're turning over something that the best thing Steve Rowe ever did was reinstitute a forum, and right off the bat, so we can get our 2 cents worth out to the people out there that are watching us online before they shut it off and go to bed. So that's my first comment.
Thank you.
Second, to you, would you please tell us who's making the motions and who's seconding? We
Oh.
cannot see through the computers to see
Oh,
mouse
surely.
track.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Third comment, I retired from 3M Company. About 1972 or 73, they instituted a program where you could bank your vacation. A lot of us sat down, used all our fingers and toes and a calculator, and figured out that we could spend the last 3 years of our working career on vacation. They quickly rescinded that. So I'm hearing picking up sick time and whatever at the end and balancing out at the end. My humble opinion, that stinks. At 3M, we had 6 months a year long-term vacation, rehab or disability, and it was basically left to the employees and the integrity of the employees to decide if they were on long-term or not. And if you're on long-term, it was on a medical issue. Short-term, that's like a couple of weeks a year. If you didn't take it, you lost it. So that's just, I hear people banking up tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars of sick time as a retirement bonus, and that just goads me a little bit. Last item I'll talk about is Ranger. Ranger is a wonderful little vehicle. I got a buddy that just bought one this week. The same thing he showed up on the screen up there, and I don't know what he paid for it, but I went online, and the retail price online for a XP 900 Ranger was about $17,000 with a full cab and all the doodahs and the expensive windshield, the expensive back shield, the heaters, and all the things in it. So I really have to question what kind of dealing and wheeling and dealing our government has done for us to get a $26,000 bid. I was just saying, we can read the papers, we understand. And it seems to me that when it gets to a government organization buying stuff, hey, it's just other people's money. And excuse me, that's my money. I don't know if you pay taxes or not, I do. And so I'm very, very sensitive to the fact that it seems like this Ranger that they wheeled and dealed for is way more expensive than my buddy bought on his own. And for that $26,000, it seems to me a year or two ago, Ted Strand bought a 3/4 ton Sierra pickup truck, 4-door, complete with a plow package and everything else. It's a nice pickup truck, same money. I'm sorry, it just,
Okay, thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm glad.
Thank you.
I'm glad you brought up the public forum, because we talked about that today, when was the best time to have it. And so duly noted, and we will revisit that at the next council meeting. Thank you. And
I'll wait till the end again if I have to.
and the other thing will be, we will make sure that you can hear who the votes and the seconds were made by.
We have to vote on these people.
Thank you, thank you. And duly noted on your other comments. Thank you. Before we adjourn, we will need a motion to move to the closed session.
Any more public forum?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any more public forum? Sorry. Okay. So now, before we adjourn, we need a motion on the floor to move to the closed session regarding pending litigation or settlement information. Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we move to closed session.
Okay. Dave Schrupp made a motion?
Dave Nevin.
Dave Nevin, sorry.
Part of his motion to adjourn at that meeting?
We're,
How do we?
If we make a final decision, we'll have to come back here and announce that. If we don't make a final decision, we're kind of done. I'll
Okay.
just report that if the press is
All right.
here.
and is there a second on David Nevin's motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do we understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion